If you say like, oh, you are not bullish enough because your target is not 10x, but only 3x, like between 3x and 10x, it already doesn't really make that much difference. Like if you have such a high conviction that it's very profitable to just be extremely like allocated.
Welcome back to the Defiant. I'm your host, Alp. And today we're shaking things up a bit because, as they say, one's company, two's a crowd, and three's a party. Joining me is the brilliant on-chain clown, a self-proclaimed wage cuck, Ivan from LobsterDAO. Together, we're gearing up to bring you a program where we get close and personal with the biggest thinkers, doers, and creators in our cryptosphere. Ivan, welcome aboard. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Alp. Pleasant introduction, love it. So let me introduce you back, even though everybody knows you at this point. Alp is a magician when it comes to videos, visuals, or anything else, and currently head of videos at Defiant. We recently caught up in Istanbul and did an interview together and thought, since we already got the webcam camera set up and trying to set up our OnlyFans pages, let's also try to record some video podcasts for crypto at the same time. So today we have the first pilot episode. The first guest, nobody else but Fiskantes from Zee Prime Capital. Please welcome him in a few seconds. What we're going to be doing with these episodes in general, we're going to be talking about the latest news of the week, some interesting trends, and just chatting about the guests' past experience in the industry and their goals for the foreseeable future and their long-term ideas. So, jumping back to Fiskantes, we're going to be talking about ETF of the past few weeks and the craziness from it, the 2023, some learnings from the past cycles, the Zee Prime Capital thesis and how the previous two funds went, and in general talking about Fiskantes' experience, how he got into crypto and what got him excited about all of this in the first place. So without further ado, let's jump into Fiskantes' introduction.
Who am I? That's like a very philosophical question, right? Well, I'm like sort of a nobody from Eastern Europe, and before crypto, I was doing all kinds of hustles. I was playing poker online for a living for a couple of years, and I did some random investments in like the physical world outside of digital realm, and then I started playing poker for Bitcoin on some shady Asian poker rooms online, and then it kind of stuck with me. The first few years I basically just hated it because it was so volatile. I couldn't really like understand why this payment system, like when I use it, it changes value so much. Sometimes I win a poker tournament or something and I try to withdraw my money back to dollars, and I realize like I have even less than I had before because like 2014 or something, Bitcoin dropped like 80%. So yeah, it was like very like sort of difficult, toxic relationship I had with crypto for a long time. And then in 2016, I started to get a bit more into it, researching Ethereum and getting hooked on ICOs in 2017. And I met some other people who were at that time kind of figuring out how to invest in crypto, and we kind of put together an investment fund, actually two investment funds. One of them is Sigil, which is a liquid hedge fund based in Gibraltar, and the other is Zee Prime Capital, which is more on the venture side. It kind of shares some members of the team, but it's not totally like commingled. It's like separate funds with very different strategies. And since then, yeah, we ended up being quite successful. Probably one of the biggest and best performing crypto funds in Gibraltar, maybe even Europe. Maybe not the biggest, but certainly we perform quite well. And yeah, having a lot of fun doing all these things. I would say I'm still more of I'm trying to be a proper VC, but I have this poker player sort of degen mindset as well. And it's kind of sometimes hard to switch between these two modes, but I'm trying. Spending a lot of time on Twitter as well. I guess shitposting is something that I do quite well, and it's very hard and dirty work that nobody else wants to do, right? So someone needs to do it, and it helps us with some exposure and deal flow as well. So I do that a lot.
Interesting. So you started off with poker, and you earned your first Bitcoin through poker games. Is that correct?
Well, actually, I learned to buy Bitcoin somewhere. I think it was Mt. Gox or something, and then I had to play for Bitcoin because these poker rooms, these online rooms, were, I think, sort of illegal. So they only accepted Bitcoin because no normal payment system would serve them. And this is how I was forced to use it, and it was super hard for me to understand how to use it properly. I also at one point tried to mine Bitcoin. I started like Bitcoin mining software on my laptop, but obviously I never mined any Bitcoin. Later on, I mined some Ethereum though. I had like a GPU rack in my room in 2000, I think early 2017, and during winter it was like serving as a heater as well. During summer I had to turn it off, but yeah, I played with crypto in this direction as well, but the first couple of years I was just like using it to play poker, and whenever I got some Bitcoin on my wallet, I would just try to sell it very fast because I was afraid it will jump or drop in value like 80% again as it did when I started.
Interesting story. So we'll get to Bitcoin ETF in just a second, but something interesting caught my attention was that you said poker instincts that gets in your like crypto habits. You said something in the realm of that. Can you maybe elaborate on what those like behaviors or like instincts are?
I would say like part of it is just me kind of making decisions very fast. Like when I played poker, I spent I don't know, 4 to 5 hours a day, just like multitabling, playing maybe 12 tables at the same time online with like 2 big screens. And you need to make like decisions super fast because the games, they have a time limit, right? So I kind of learned how to kind of have a pretty good, but still like not very precise estimate on like what the EV of individual like move is in each spot. And then I had to like click the button super fast. And even today, even though like I'm investing much more long term, sometimes I just look at an investment opportunity, and within like 20 seconds of scanning it, I already know if I want to sort of invest or not. And the rest of the team is still like kind of analyzing, doing the due diligence and like figuring out the metrics and all the facts that are necessary to make a decision. And I already know like it's a good investment or not. And sometimes I need to kind of slow myself down. Poker players are notorious bettors. We bet on everything. So I always like try to, if there is something I think about the market or I'm like bullish or bearish on something, I try to figure out a good way to bet on it. Usually it's very hard to bet on stuff. The prediction markets and stuff like that are not really that proliferated today. Sometimes my decision making is not very precise, but it's like I decide very fast, and then I just try to kind of rationalize like why is it good, but usually just some sort of deeply ingrained intuition about like the numbers, potential upside I see, and some other factors. And luckily the other parts of our team the other members of our team are much more diligent. They go much deeper. They take their time analyzing. So we kind of work well together.
Cool. I mean, it sounds like you've developed a really strong gut feeling in this field, and I'd love to hear what like, since it takes like very short amount of time for you to decide on whether an investment is good or not. What are the things that you pay attention when making a decision? It
really depends on the particular like investment. It can be, if I read a deck, it's always like some sort of a language from the deck. Like it's very hard to even like describe it, but I guess I can filter out like 80% of stuff very easily just by looking at the type of words, the buzzwords they use, maybe taking a look at the team and their history. When it comes to liquid opportunities, it's more like what's the current valuation and liquidity, what are the catalysts, what is the potential, like the potential upside, and then like I guess a little bit of sort of a hype as well, like how can this become a thing that people pay attention to? And usually when something is let's say on crypto Twitter, everybody is talking about it. It's way too late, so I massively discount those opportunities. But yeah, like other than that, it just I would say it's intuition, which is very hard to describe. It's not a process.
Has that changed, by the way, for you or for your team this cycle? To put the question more in perspective, for example, a cycle ago, I also tried to angel invest, right? Not, of course, as good as you are doing it, but for this is the third cycle, right? I would say it may be due to experience of people or maybe just because of how cycles change. I feel like this cycle narratives or rather signals have become even more opaque than before. Like it really got away from technology into just fugazi infrastructure narratives, or maybe that is just me saying it because I don't have those bags right now. So do you get the question? Like, what would you say changed in some of the things that you look at? Because let's say, again, a more perspective. You, let's say, have a few decent VCs that you yourself appreciate, right? Or a few decent angels. Before, their number was very scarce, right? There weren't that many of them. This cycle, there are many X type of Google, right? X Facebook or whatever. There have been many decent protocols, many decent projects and teams. So X of something, does that even matter anymore? Like, I think you get it at this point, right? Like, what are the signals that have changed and are more prevalent this cycle?
Well, I would actually say that this cycle so far is not that different than last cycles. Obviously, the projects are different and some of the narratives are new. But a lot of the things that we see today as having a quote-unquote narrative, which I start to hate that term, by the way, but it's something that everybody uses these days. It's something that you could see in the past as well. Like let's say decentralized AI, which is now one of the narratives that people expect to be huge. It's something that was already kind of circulating in 2017 and 18 during ICO mania. And of course, now what we see like currently in last few weeks or maybe months is, I would say it's like a barbell between like the very easy to understand lowest common denominator meme coins, like the stupidest like thing you can put on a dog sort of thing. And then on the other end of the barbell, you have these like extremely complex modular pieces of infrastructure that all kinds of try to fill some very specific infrastructure niche. And not many people really understand these things technically or even from like business perspective, like how these things will accrue value, how will they actually like attain some meaningful traction, but people invest in them because it's just like the thing to invest in. But like, so we had all this before, but now we kind of, it feels that we had a lot of stuff in the middle before as well, and now the middle is kind of empty. But I would say that just recently, like last couple of weeks or maybe months, I think that this market is more like a pendulum in that sense, that it kind of moves between different narratives and segments, and it kind of gets to the extreme and then it swings back. Then it gets to the extreme again and then it swings back. For example, during DeFi summer, we had a lot of these, I mean, you could call them apps. I think they were more like games, like gamified sort of financial Ponzi's or whatever. But it was clear that we don't have enough infrastructure to serve these things on scale and to actually like be usable for a large group of users. So we at Zee Prime, we were like thinking back then during DeFi summer, like, okay, like this is really cool. We have all these like new DEXs and all that stuff, but now we need more infrastructure. So we started to invest in infrastructure, in like middleware protocols that enable developers to develop things more quickly, more efficiently. And now I see that this trend like got massively overblown. Like everybody now invests in infrastructure. And now like the thing is we have like everybody is building a dev-to-dev infrastructure project, and there is like not enough applications that would actually attract users. And we see some people already pointing it out, like who are all these infra projects going to serve if there is not a single like mass adopted application, maybe apart from like meme coins and DEXs that you can use to trade meme coins on. So I guess like this pendulum kind of swings back from that like DeFi summer sort of peak of user apps, I mean, there were not really apps, but they were kind of closer to the end user with the food coins and sort of like gamified ways to play with new financial primitives. So just to wrap it up, like I don't think it really changed. During ICO era, we also saw a lot of these like futility tokens that were supposed to be slapped to some X of crypto, right? I mean, it's just a shortcut, analogous way to think about like products and markets. Like you say, it's Airbnb for GPUs. That's pretty easy to understand for everyone. So it's just a mental shortcut if you want to give an elevator pitch to some VC, but yeah, it's very imprecise and it leads to like kind of a lot of people just like jumping on narratives without understanding the underlying.
I would agree that the middle, maybe just the cycle, that's the specification of the part of the cycle, right? That there was a bear market in between. So a lot of big capital kind of like monopolized a few things, right? And if you're not big capital, you were really left only with the small bags, let's say so. So there is no like in between. You're either a founder who has like 3 different coins at this time. And I would say what is different this cycle is people genuinely started making 1+ coins tradable at the same time. But because they made the first success happen, it's not frowned upon, right? You made one success happen, so okay, you can have the free ticket to go build more. You can argue whether it's okay or not, but maybe that's just a sub effect, right? As time goes by, the middle will return to an extent. It's just that during bear markets, everything consolidates. You're either very small, right, and you are let's say an undervalued bag, or you are just a huge one that you can safely ape into, and the middle kind of gets distorted. So that's maybe what Fisks is referring to.
Maybe one thing that feels a little bit different, or maybe it's more exasperated, is that like in the past we had all these like kind of projects and ecosystems being kind of more, let's say, aligned in one direction usually. Like let's say most ICOs were built on ETH. Most DeFi projects during DeFi summer were built on Ethereum or like at least some EVM compatible chains, and there were not too many other options. And now we see a couple of other ecosystems that are like outside of Ethereum or EVM sort of landscape. We see them proliferate, and I kind of feel that there are like two trends. From like memetic perspective, one of them is this trend like Ethereum and Solana, for example, they now really double down on this tribal narrative that they are like, you are using Solana because you like Solana, you are part of Solana community. Same with Ethereum, you are part of Ethereum community, you are Ethereum aligned, Ethereum alignment is a huge meme right now. And then there are some other projects, maybe something like Celestia or Cosmos to some extent, or even something like Near, where they are saying like, we are just building the infrastructure for developers to build applications on top of, and like necessarily the end users won't even know which blockchain they are using or whether they are using blockchain at all. Whereas like within Solana or Ethereum, there is still this prevalent notion that people care about the underlying infra layer. They hold the bags, they want to be part of the community. They are like, like fans of their favorite football club, right? Or soccer club if you are in US, and they are like rooting for it, right? So there are these like, one of them is like this pure, let's provide just technology for everyone to use, and let's like abstract everything away from end user. And the other is like, these are our values, this is the ideology of our ecosystem, this is our central token that everyone needs to pay gas and do some other stuff, and we really want to align users with this one asset. I mean, Ethereum is a prime example of that, but I think Solana is kind of moving in the direction a bit too.
Maybe that's because you kind of turn generalism into a cult and into culture, right? Being open to everything doesn't exactly make things polarized. And the same way as you pointed out, a football club or politics betting, to create that okay, not the word alignment, more so to create a cult, right? A community, a belief, a certain framework of common rules or values to abide by, which It is a separate question whether it's needed or not, right? But when you try to do that, you can't be generalistic, or can you? So they're kind of like, not forced, but choose the direction of creating a cult, because a cult makes you more, lets you cement your place, let's say so.
Yeah, I think it gives these assets, these like base assets that are the centerpiece, the coordination tool for these cults, like basically you measure the success of your cult by how much your token is worth and how much is it pumping comparatively to other cults, right, or other tribes. And then like, you want to hold it because you are part of the club, part of the elite, part of the tribe. So then this asset can have some monetary premium, not just being this very easy to value sort of like revenue asset or some like utility token for governance. You actually want to hold it because it helps you signal to the world like you are part of this club, and it also helps everyone to measure how successful the club is or the cult.
Fantastic. So I guess we can move over to Zee Prime Capital. I'd love to hear what it is exactly and what sectors you guys are mostly focused on, and if you could mention like the biggest wins, biggest losses that you've occurred throughout the years.
Zee Prime Capital is basically a crypto venture firm. We started in late 2018. It was basically started by Matti and Jacob. I joined a little bit later, like in 2 or 3 months, and I joined as a partner. First Zee Prime Fund, ZP1, was just proprietary money, basically our own money. There was no like external capital, no LPs, so it was not even a fund properly at that time. And at that time, we basically invested mostly in like blockchains in layer ones, like Solana, Polkadot. And then on the other side, we were, I think, quite early into DeFi and DeFi summer, where we invested in synthetics. We did some secondary market investments and primary as well. I guess, yeah, the first fund was more about like the layer one blockchains, crypto in general, and just like DeFi. These were the most prevalent sort of themes. We had some infrastructure projects as well. I think the first project I ever brought into Zee Prime was Pocket Network, which if you ask about wins and losses, that's quite interesting because it went from like 0 to hero last cycle to like almost 0 again, and now it kind of has its sort of second renaissance. I mean, it's still kind of like just picking up, but yeah, it's a roller coaster, and we are kind of much more long-term oriented than most other crypto investment firms or like VCs even. So we are basically holding most of our like venture positions like through a couple of cycles. We are not really trying to hedge or sell. I mean, we do take some profits. We took some money off from Solana. The other investment that's kind of that I would say made us popular, even though it's not really that big, is Polkadot, because some members of our team got very bullish on Polkadot technology. I mean, I was very cautious about the whole thing, but Jacob started actually building stuff on Polkadot as well, and he got really good feedback from the developers that he hired that it's like very interesting tech to build on. So we were quite vocal about it, and people then like kind of connected Zee Prime to Polkadot ecosystem, even though like our Polkadot bags are much smaller than like, let's say, Solana or anything else. We were very early in Solana. That's like probably one of our biggest wins. It was like, I think 2019 or 2020 during the race, the private race, when like one sol was like 0.23 or something, and yeah, obviously that's a huge return for ZP1. One of the other investments that we got very like we kind of were put on the map with was Olympus, which obviously like is very controversial, and we kind of like to like get into these controversial deals because it kind of steers the pot and it pushes like crypto to some like weird directions that we like. It's like this chaotic neutral alignment. So like Olympus, we really like the idea of trying to create like semi-stable monetary asset that is not backed to USD, but also tries to be like more or less established for economic activity. And I think like with Olympus, it's just like, there were some design choices that made it into a Ponzi-fied game. But other than that, some of the mechanics are very interesting, but I think it's just like too early like for that kind of thing. So we may see some other attempts or even Olympus surviving and doing it in the future and of getting to that point. But it's not clear at this point that people really want such economic assets. So we are still holding it. We will see what happens. For ZP2, we kind of moved more into the middleware sort of direction, where we realized during DeFi summer we want to invest more in infrastructure because it's lacking. Developers that are trying to build stuff, they don't really have any sort of tooling for that. So we decided to be more about middleware. So we backed Bioeconomy and a couple more middleware projects. We already raised the fund for ZP2, so we have some LPs. And then ZP3, which we are still, I think, raising right now, it's really focused more on the user-facing applications, because at this point we see that there are so many infrastructure middleware projects and not enough apps to actually bring users. So we want to invest in the next big user-facing app in crypto that will bring the next 100 million users. That's like the overarching theme. So yeah, we invest in all kinds of applications. We are still like crypto investors, so it needs to have a token, but it should be user-facing more or less. We also invest in infrastructure still. If there is something interesting, we are not dogmatic, but the direction kind of changed for us. We try to keep our funds very small compared to, let's say, many other venture firms. We always raise like something like 35 mil total, and big part of that was our own money. So yeah, I think it's much easier to navigate crypto space as a small investment fund rather than a big one. That kind of gives us big part of the edge is that we can just like afford to invest in small deals, and we don't have to like spray and pray everywhere just to invest the capital quickly, as many behemoths out there.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on Solana, particularly considering like the past year, having surviving FTX and like going through a bunch of network issues. What was your sentiment when it was completely abandoned and sort of forgotten by the whole community?
So talking about Solana, I think the first interesting thing I would mention is that for us, when we invested in Solana, it was kind of a hedge. We always thought that blockchains will scale with layers, and the blockchain architecture will be sort of modular. And Solana was kind of the best investment that was like countering our thesis. That was like, it was technically very interesting. When I remember when I read the white paper, when I saw the presentation of Anatoly in Prague, DevCon 4, I was like, wow, I don't think that this will work on scale. Like, I think the bloat will just like be unbearable, and it will need to centralize a lot. But it's still like probably the best attempt at having like super scaled base layer. And we basically decided, I mean, I was not even like extremely keen on investing because it just like felt like I disagree with the overall idea of it. But some other members of Zee Prime were like a bit more keen, and then we decided to invest to hedge our exposure to modular layered scaling of blockchains. And yeah, it turned out that our intuition was wrong in the sense that, at least for now, that the market really values this sort of this direction of scaling. And when like everything went down, with FTX, it was kind of obvious to us that Solana is not going to die. There was just like too much going on in the ecosystem, even without SBF and all that stuff. There were a lot of developers still building. The community was not extremely big or anything, but was very like hardcore. And we felt like, okay, like now, like it's obviously horrible. We were actually expecting Solana to be underperforming for a long time, because just like, you know, there are so many like token holders that are just trying to sell because they lost faith. There is like FTX and Alameda bags that will try to be dispersed when Solana pumps. So we were not expecting it to kind of outperform like that after the initial despair, but alas, it happened. And we were trying to get in touch with Solana teams and kind of lend them a helping hand, because we knew that some of them may lost their funding or their treasuries on FTX, you know, and some other like, let's say, developers that were attending Solana hackathons. They were trying to still build on Solana. So we were trying to kind of get in touch with as many as possible and kind of invest in under favorable terms, of course. But yeah, then one thing that was kind of like interesting during like the Solana craze of 2021 was that SBF and Alameda, this like gang, they captured a lot of the developer ecosystem as well. They invested in everything, and they were the ones gatekeeping the rounds from some other investors that were not like friendly to them. So we were not really invested in that many Solana-based projects before, but now like the space is much more clear and it's easier for us to invest. So we are looking at a direction too. But yeah, like during the downturn, we never doubted that Solana is kind of like surviving or is here to stay, but we would not expect it to have such a strong comeback, to be honest.
What was the reason behind the comeback actually? Why did all of a sudden the whole ecosystem started surging up, the prices of Solana and related tokens going up? What was behind it? Yeah,
it's not very easy to answer this question. I would say it's a bit similar to what happened to Solana in, I think it was start of 2021. I remember when Solana was like $3 and there was like this huge unlock coming, and everybody was shorting into the unlock because they were like, yeah, now all these VCs are going to dump. And what nobody knew at that time was that there is like very active OTC market for like Solana Soft or like the Solana token claims. And most of the people who wanted to sell, or the VCs that wanted to sell Solana, before they were able to offload their bags on OTC market. So there were not as many sellers on secondary market upon the unlock. There was a lot of shorters that got liquidated, and then like with SBF kind of pumping it and some other interesting things happening, like it went crazy. And I think it's a bit similar now. Like everybody was burying Solana under the ground. Everybody was so bearish, and people were even shorting it, I would say, to kind of hedge. They were maybe like long ETH and short Solana. And then like when we realized, okay, the OTC market is kind of still working for Alameda liquidators and some other entities, it kind of feels like this was very similar case. Like people were shorting it too much, and then it went into this reflexive loop, right? Of like shorts getting liquidated, price pumping, more people paying attention, some projects like dropping some airdrops there, and it just has this like positive feedback loop right now. And it kind of, it's very hard to like pinpoint any specific reason, but I kind of imagine it as a spring. Like the more you press on the spring, the higher it jumps when you release it, right? So Solana Spring was very, very pressed from that side. In general, I would say people are now overestimating, like, let's say, token unlocks and token flows. The OTC market right now is much more active and efficient than it used to be. And many of these like softs and tokens are being sold, and they change hands a lot before they unlock. So it's not So the unlock and vesting schedules and all the supply overhang, the actual market flows look very different than what like people imagine by just looking at the vesting schedules of tokens. I think it will be case for many high-profile projects, not just Solana.
Where do you see Solana going this upcoming bull run?
Well, I guess it's very hard to say. I don't like to pretend I have a crystal ball. I try to think probabilistically. I think there is a very good chance that Solana keeps outperforming and attracting like all kinds of new use cases or projects that are interesting. I think what it needs for that is at least one major user-facing application, or at least like very successful game or something like that attracts like new people into crypto. Because so far everything that we see on Solana, I mean, it's interesting, but apart from some like niche exceptions, it's just the thing that you can also do on Ethereum or layer 2s. It just may be cheaper. It has a little bit of different like UX and stuff, but it's fundamentally similar thing. And the biggest thing that's happening on Solana are still some meme coins right now, which you could do on many other chains as well. So for Solana to keep outperforming, I think it needs to bring some new use cases. I think the other probability is that it kind of already peaked and now we'll just like see it kind of going sideways, and people will refocus back again on modular TZs, maybe on Cosmos or on Ethereum L2 ecosystem, which is already kind of happening. But like when we think about like long-term time frame, one thing that Solana is going for it is just like the simplicity of development for developers and the steadfast vision of the team of Anatoly specifically, who is like our North Star, our main reason Solana exists is to like push the costs of using and developing on blockchain as low as possible, as like our physical laws will allow us. And that's something that no other like crypto infrastructure project or blockchain really like focuses on with such tenacity. So I would say that long term with this vision, I think they will definitely carve a sustainable niche for their block space. I'm not sure if it still will be the biggest blockchain out there, but it's one of the top contestants. And for next 3 years, again, it can outperform. It doesn't have to. I don't know how to answer that question. I would say that there is a higher chance it will outperform slightly, but I don't think it will outperform dramatically going forward.
What are your thoughts, Ivan? Are you a fan of Solana?
I'm like the biggest loser when it comes to Solana, so I don't think my opinions on that are anyhow relevant.
In like long time frame, I mean, I think Solana will definitely be one of the like major players, but like when I think about like what and how the blockchains will be used for, I don't know, like it still feels to me that blockchain is some sort of bootstrapping technology for something superior. I read a saying that humans are the bootstrapping vehicle for AI, and then like the blockchain is the bootstrapping vehicle for ZK Tech. So I kind of feel like the very far future of crypto is more looking kind of similar to some sort of trust minimized ZK infrastructure rather than like this open public like account based like normal ledger we have today. But again, like I don't have very huge, like I'm not extremely technical, so it's very hard for me to gauge like how hard it is to get to that point. Surely many are trying right now. But yeah, I would just say that Solana is definitely going to be a major crypto player going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's pretty likely, but I'm just not extremely sure that it is like the winning solution forever. I mean, you could also argue that Solana team is extremely technically skilled, and whatever the innovation is that happens elsewhere with like ZK or whatever else, they can just adopt it because they have this North Star of being the fastest and cheapest as physically possible. So I would not underestimate this like ability of teams to pivot, change, and improve. I think that's something that many investors in the space kind of do wrong, or they have this wrong mindset about things. Like they see some crypto economic model or some like infrastructure, some technology, and they immediately see some sort of flaws and some tail risks about it, and like they have a lot of criticism, but they don't understand that this is just like maybe the first phase of the project. And if the team is capable and smart, they will kind of iterate until it's good, right? One of my most favorite investments is Synthetics, which we did in 2019, and Synthetics iterated quite a lot. Like they're like one of the, I would say, prime examples of not just a team but the whole community and like decentralized governance that is able to kind of iterate towards something interesting. And they had many flaws, and all the critics pointed these flaws out over the years. But critics, some of them are gone, and Synthetics is still here and kind of gaining traction. So I would not underestimate this factor about technology. Like you don't have to have, like if there is some new technology, you don't have to have new project that will implement the technology. You can have already existing project with the best team that will just like take this new tech or this new innovation and integrates it.
So for the longest time, we were waiting for an approval on Bitcoin ETFs. So they happened. Bitcoin ETFs are approved. I wanted to ask you, what's next? What's happening next? Where will people look forward to next as a narrative?
Well, yeah, I guess Bitcoin ETF was like the biggest narrative, and even the institutional like buying narrative is here for a long time. I remember since 2017 or 18 there was this hope that institutions are going to buy all the bags, and that's being kind of validated with the ETF. And what it does is it just like opens the gateway for like new, pretty dumb money, like pension funds that will just say, okay, we want to have 1% exposure to Bitcoin, and they will just keep buying. They don't really try to time the market. They don't really try to look at on-chain flows or anything like that, or whether there are like empty GOX coins being unlocked next month or not. They just like keep buying slowly. So it will have an effect on like everything, because the Bitcoin price is the tide that kind of lifts all the boats. There is like this trickle-down effect, right? What is the next narrative? Definitely Ethereum ETF, but I mean, that's kind of unoriginal and it's already being priced in as we speak. I really want to say like we need a new sort of like user-facing, mass-adopted application. Like we have all these infrastructure narratives, and like pension funds are going to buy our bags. But I really want to see an app or something that's being used by people who don't have crypto today and don't care about like trading crypto. Maybe they do care about trading or betting on something else, but they don't care about like. They don't want to have like meme coins in their like address. So I think that this should be not just narrative, but this should be the next step of this cycle to kind of legitimize crypto further, not just as this like digital pet rock that pension funds will buy and sit on, and then like prices go up, but also something that's being used. I would say that one thing that's still it's baffling, but we still haven't cracked payments yet. That's like I don't think we can seriously claim that crypto is here to replace financial industry if we don't crack payments. And we need to make payments like cheaper than incumbents, which are like inefficient, over-regulated, and like with all these additional costs on top of them. Like, I mean, of course, I can already send you USDC on Solana for like $0.0001 in fees, which is great, but we really need to figure out the last mile for the user, so they actually can use it like buying stuff. If not like in grocery stores and shit like that, at least online for paying for some games or something like that. That could be the first step. And yeah, unless we crack this like commercial finance or payment vertical, unless we kind of have a really big project in that direction, I don't think we can seriously claim that crypto is like a decent alternative to financial system.
Which sector within crypto do you think is the most ripe or ready for creating a user-facing application?
I think I will sound very boring saying this, but I think it's just like gaming. I think just because, many gamers are actually very anti-crypto for some reason, because they are just like so sensitive towards like big companies, like milking them with micropayments and DLCs and all kinds of stuff, and they see like crypto and NFTs as just like next step in this trend. But I really think that there will be games that will crack this in-game economy / ownership, sort of feeling of ownership and bigger control for players. And it will enable maybe like even more open ecosystem where other developers can start building mods and integrate them within the game ecosystem and its economy in some interesting way. Like for example, when you see like some of the most popular games, like League of Legends is basically different sort of game that was inspired by Dota, and Dota was a mod for Warcraft 3, right? And let's say Counter-Strike was mod for Half-Life, and I kind of feel that if we enable developers to build like sort of mods, and then they connect these mods into the original gaming ecosystem and start making money out of it, it can be very interesting sort of from development, like game development perspective. Because right now, if you build a mod, you build it for free, and then maybe if you are good enough, the company will buy you out and integrates your mod. But it's very clumsy option. So I think like Web3 gaming in general is very likely vertical, and it's very ripe. There are like a couple of contesters in that side. What else? I would say that decentralized trading, perpetuals and like leverage trading on chain, that's something that's already cooking, and in this cycle will like grow massively compared to centralized exchanges. Shout out to Gearbox. What else? Yeah, there are a couple of narratives out there that people think that will be massive. I think they will be massive in terms of like prices pumping, but I don't think they are very ripe at actual like adoption. For example, like crypto to AI sort of connection. It feels like it's too soon for that to kind of be a thing that actually makes sense. But I mean, sure, people are trying mostly to pump the bag. Yeah, what else? I'm not sure if this is something that will be like super huge, but it's definitely overlooked and quite interesting to us. Is decentralized science. Basically, finding new ways how to fund research and development of drugs and like some other innovations in medicine and other scientific fields. That could be very interesting. Like let people speculate on research papers and their implementation before they are like publicly traded companies and like this playground for big pharma to buy out. Like if we let like random people from all these like Reddits, biohacking forums, etc., speculate on which research will actually be like will actually gain some valuable intellectual property, that could be, I think, niche, but very interesting niche that not many people think about today still.
I was about to say that. It's like meme coins, but with some value and some goodwill behind them, right? You essentially literally just have a white paper. Most of those could be just ChatGPT, right? But people can gamble on them. Would it be fair to compare it? Remember those were community coins on Airweave? Like when Airweave picked up like last cycle, there were some community coins like profit sharing little DAOs for different things, right? Here it's like those white paper coins, but actually, literally speaking, white paper coins. That could be fun.
Yeah. I definitely think that whatever is the next big thing, or like the next interesting niche, at least it needs to be sort of fun. It needs to be a bit wacky. It needs to be something that all these mid-curver TradFis will again say it's like complete like scam and doesn't make any sense, which is like counter argument to my payment thesis. Like payment kind of makes a lot of sense to everyone, right? It's something that obviously if you have a way how to send something to someone, some asset to someone for like $0.0001, then it obviously makes sense to integrate payments into this, right? So it's such a like mid-curve thing.
As long as you don't start funding Latin American payment providers and saying you're going to fix LATAM micropayments, then it's still fine, because that is the extent where especially the Silicon Valley VCs go to, right? Like it feels like everybody crosses that stage when you're a big VC at some point. Okay, like what can I do? I can start renovating kitchens in my Ibiza properties, or I can start fixing payments in Latin America. It doesn't feel like there is any second. It was the only tweet I ever made that got likes, so I'm sorry for abusing it, but I don't have good jokes very often, so I'm going to use it twice here.
You can even pivot to Africa, right? That's another one.
Hey, that's too much of a big vision. Like your fund is not 1 billion size. You don't live off manager fees just yet, so keep it simple for now. But right. Yes, you're right, of course.
Point taken. But yeah, we have this thesis of the next thing being like, Mati calls it wacky. Like there are these like RWAs, like real world assets, and he says that we will see actually some really wacky assets like being traded, and that will be the thing that kind of breaks everyone's head. We are kind of positioning in the direction a little bit. We are not afraid of this controversy, but yeah, it's very hard to kind of to pretend I have a crystal ball. It's not something I like to do. I just try to think what kind of project or product would I like to use as well. And I would definitely use payments. I would definitely use, let's say, prediction markets and bet on random events and stuff, and I already do that to an extent. I would even bet on some like random, like Twitter influencers getting more followers and stuff like that. I kind of feel like I would do these products, or I would use them very often. So we are investing a little bit in the direction. One thing that I also think could be interesting, but I'm not sure. I don't understand it super well, but I think it could be interesting is DePIN, like decentralized physical infrastructure. Multi-coin guys are like very proliferated in that section. We are also looking at that space, but I kind of feel like for me to be able to really analyze this, I would need to understand the underlying problem of, let's say, like GPU markets or data centers and all these other like DePIN, the problems that DePIN try to solve, which I don't really have expertise for, so my conviction is low. But I think that with token like slapped on top of this, it could kind of solve this cold start problem that many of these physical networks have. That's another thing.
I think you've been really active on Friend.Tech. I believe you're still very like daily posting on your Friend.Tech group. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on it, since like a majority of the activity is down, and many of the people I know, including myself, have completely abandoned the platform. What makes you still actively use that?
I mean, I was never extremely active in a sense that I was never thinking about a content to produce there. I just, every day or every 2 days, I check in, and if there is some question, I just answer the question. So it's basically paid AMA, continuous AMA for me. And there are people who are still willing to hold my key for 0.25 or something ETH. And I mean, if these people were willing to pay this money, or they are willing to hold it and not sell, then I guess that's a signal for me that these people care about having this access to my answers more than they care about 0.25 ETH, and that's sort of flattering in a way. It's kind of boosts my ego to think that, okay, there are people who actually pay this amount of money to be able to anytime ask me questions, and some of them don't even ask, or they don't ask very often, but they are just there and they read and stuff. So the least I can do for them is to just log in from time to time and answer, and that's about it. I don't read any other chats right now. I don't buy more keys of anyone else, even though I hold a few. I just go to my chat and do that. So yeah, I would say Friend.Tech is very interesting, like conceptually. I would say it's kind of sad that they started with point farming instead of trying to sort of not grow so fast, but have this approach of iterating fast and adding new features and making better UX, because the UX really sucks even today. It's really like clunky. It doesn't work for me half of the time. It kind of breaks on my screen, and yeah, there are so many like interesting features that they could implement. When they introduced point farming, I would say they switched the incentive to use the project. Like before, you also had an incentive to make money because the keys could pump, and you could make money on your keys or on other people's keys. But then they introduced this like farming system where all you did was care about how many points you have instead of what are the best keys to hold and the best chats to engage in. And I think this is a bit different than when you have some airdrop farming in DeFi, for example, because in DeFi, what they want you to do usually is, let's say, provide some liquidity or input your capital somehow and make your capital useful within some application for something, lending, like DEX, providing liquidity and so on. And in that case, it doesn't really matter like if you farm the point or if you are genuinely there to provide capital, the capital is fungible and all the same. However, I would say for social fi, the attention you are like harnessing, because you need to harness attention and eyeballs of users, not just the capital of users. The attention is not fungible. It's a very different experience if you go to Friend.Tech because there are some keys of influencers that you are bullish on, or you want to get into private room with your favorite influencer and ask him questions and like see what kind of alpha he shares. And it's very different when you just go there to farm some points. Some people actually were coding GM bots to kind of create fake activity in the chat because activity was also rewarded with some additional points, right? It's very different motive, and the quality of the attention is like very different than it was before. And it ruined the user experience for many people, and then of course like the hype died. Then like I think the team made quite a few like, let's say, controversial choices, and now it's like kind of out of favor. Like everyone I talk to seems to be like hating it and burying it under the ground. I'm not sure if it ever like recovers. There is like V2 coming out, I would say, very soon. There was some teaser. I don't know much about it. I'm not invested in Friend.Tech in any capacity, apart from holding some keys. But yeah, I think the V2, if it's like extremely good and it will solve all the UX problems, it can, and if it introduces many new interesting features, it can still make a comeback. But I think that's like the last chance. But what's good about Friend.Tech is that it opened people's minds like about like in which direction we can build, like into more like social sort of direction where sort of like financial motive with status motive kind of mixes together, because like social fi or like this crypto social is like usually it's financial driven and it's status driven. You can see it on CT. CT is the big social fi app out there, and you see many people are there because they want to make money. They are there because they want to get clout and status. Like if you gain followers on crypto Twitter, if you have like 50K followers, like you are set. Like you really have so many like opportunities to angel invest or like get into this. I hate this, but you can get very easily into these KOL rounds and like partnerships with projects. They will pay you for tweeting, and like of course like you will dilute your content very very easily if you just like take money for tweeting. But you can do that, and cloud is becoming very valuable on crypto Twitter. And if there is a platform that kind of leverages it even more or kind of leans into this trend that kind of is specifically suited for that, I think it can be big. And Friend.Tech was definitely the first attempt, and there are many others coming out. And yeah, lastly, there is fun, like memes, and crypto industry is such an entertaining place to be that everyone is just hooked just for the memes. Even if you don't trade crypto, even if you just hold ETH or whatever, you still just log on to just like see what the fuck is happening next, what are the new rags, the new narratives and new dramas around influencers. It's just like never ending a real world reality show. And I think Twitter is obviously most suitable for this and will be very hard to dethrone, but I think we will have other applications that are more crypto specific that will lean into these like memes slash entertainment plus status plus financial motives.
I wanted to ask if you have more thoughts to elaborate on DeFi, if you're seeing any particular innovations or where you see DeFi heading in the upcoming year.
One thing I started to be kind of dismayed about was this trend. I think it was inevitable, but maybe I was a bit naive thinking this won't be the case. But this is the trend that many DeFi projects that started as these money Legos, they turned into being competitors to each other and try to horizontally integrate as much as possible. So like before you had like lending market, and then you had swap, and then you had liquid staking derivative protocol, and a couple of other like verticals that each were like served by different protocol or project. And now all these or many of these DeFi projects are trying to expand, because at the end of the day they are not protocols, they are businesses, and they want to capture value, capture market share, and capture end users. So like Uniswap is buying NFT market. They bought Genie, I think. Then like Curve and Aave are starting their own stable coins, and like Frax, for example, they are building everything just to be sure they don't miss any vertical. So instead of DeFi Legos, we see like DeFi sort of integrated competitors trying to like fight for the same sort of pie. And in this sense, I kind of feel like this is a bit antithetical to how like the crypto should work. But yeah, it was probably a bit naive. What I'm definitely bullish about was, as I said, decentralized trading, leverage trading, and even spot trading. But leverage trading has, I think, a little bit of bigger upside right now. What I'm a little bit bearish about are like stable coins, in the sense that USDC and USDT have such a huge market share at this point and such a huge like penetration and adoption that you would need something that's 10 times better than them to kind of replace them, and that's not gonna happen because there is only so much you can do with dollar-pegged stablecoin. It's not like it's something that unlocks like completely new features that you never thought about before. It's just a token that holds a peg with $1, right? So the teams that are trying to build like new types of stable coins, I would say they will be niche at best. So I'm not really bearish on that side. And then what we see is basically just like many iterations of the same thing all over again, with DEXs kind of being proliferated on every new ecosystem, and they are basically just Uniswap v3 or maybe v2 with some different twist, but there is nothing really new there. Apart from leverage trading, we don't really have like extremely strong bullish thesis on many other DeFi projects. Maybe CLOBs, like on some hyperscaled infrastructure, maybe on Solana, maybe on some ZK Tech, maybe CLOBs will also have their moment finally. Serum is dead, but Phoenix and OpenBook, I think, are the ones that are like trying to push forward. I think there are a couple on ZK Tech as well, but it's still very early. And like it's so easy to bootstrap liquidity using AMMs for long tail. Then CLOB, you really need to be competitive with market makers, right? Which is super hard. So our only big like sort of vertical that we are invested right now within DeFi is decentralized trading, like perpetuals on chain. Maybe options, but with options there are so many option protocols and not enough people who understand options in crypto still. So they are, even when you look at centralized exchanges, like the biggest centralized exchange for options is Deribit, and it's orders of magnitude smaller than like perpetual CEXs like Bybit or Binance. So it kind of, market shows its hand when it comes to which products it prefers. And I would say like decentralized perps or decentralized leverage is like the biggest or the most bullish vertical in DeFi for us for like near-term future. Unless we see something completely new that I don't see today that would change my mind.
Speaking of perps, if you don't mind me asking, I've been looking at them a lot. Well, not recently, but always. But in a decentralized sense, they seem to be all of the designs right now, and I probably mean actually all of them, because you are trading against the pool and you are trading against LPs. It doesn't seem to be like a good idea, because when doing customer development, I know, right? I wish I was doing shitcoins instead have to do real work. Everybody said that they see a few huge problems. A couple of them are fixable, a couple of them might be not. So the one that's the biggest one and that has interconnection with all of the other pieces is the amount of liquidity, because the less liquidity you have, the less big and the deep the books will be, and also the worse the funding rates will jump. Like whenever Binance has 15%, perp dexes have 50% plus. It's like literally a 3-4x difference. Like DYDX a few days ago has 100, or at least had in a few hours time. And I know it balances itself out, but what is the thesis for decentralized perp dexes? Because when you look at something like Binance, right, they have a bunch of liquidity, they underwrite it through their own weird mechanism, right? They can be totally legit, but essentially they are tweakable. It's somewhat manual, right, which helps in this case. If you're a decentralized perp, I'm not sure the same benefits apply to you. So what is the bullishness you have about perp dexes? Because I, so far, for the past 2 weeks, only see downsides in that model.
Yeah, well, I think that comes back to the point I had about synthetics and people looking at current design choices and sets of features and thinking that this is a final state. I would say that in future we will have order book based exchanges for perps as well as spot that will kind of exist almost fully, maybe fully on chain, and they will essentially solve this like LP problem of scalability. But I would also say we will see all kinds of hybrids, and because it's such a big pie to fight for, like speculations and leverage is like the biggest pie in crypto you can fight for. So the incentives to solve this problem are huge, and there are many like smart teams doing that. So I just think that like we will figure it out. We will figure out the best solutions, and I think it's closer to CLOB than to current like LP models. That being said, the LP models I think will still prevail in some form, at least within some like niche ecosystems, because they are like it's similar to like Uniswap V2, right? It's not the most efficient way to trade or to provide liquidity, but it's good enough for long tail of assets that is actually like probably the most used financial primitive in crypto is like AMM swap, right? Like Uniswap V2 sort of thing. Well, now maybe it's V3 volume wise, but in number of trades made on all the different chains, like I would say like simple AMM just trumps everything, because every new shitcoin you launch, you just like put liquidity into the pool, and you don't have to think about it even, like what are you doing. You can just be super stupid and do like the whole XYK, and that's it. And it's not extremely efficient, but it serves the long tail better than anything else, and it's super simple. So I think the simplicity is underrated. Like many people who are from traditional finance, they look at these things and they say this looks like a weird toy that's very inefficient and stupid, but it enables like 15-year-old kid from Pakistan to launch a token and give it liquidity, and it can be traded the next day. Like how much work and resources you would need to spend to launch anything on any sort of traditional finance exchange or even centralized crypto exchange, right? Like you need to talk with the team, they need to like list it, So I would say that this is the the big advantage crypto has is it can just iterate fast, put stuff out, and of course like most of this stuff is like crap, but I think it has better chance of iterating towards something just because the financial incentives are so high and there are so many different experiments already that you can like learn from in the open. Like you can take a look at GMX trading dynamics, how much money LPs made or lost, what are the fees, what are the design choices. You can see it unraveling in real time sometimes, and then you can just like learn from it and try something else. And you know that if you kind of nail it, at least partially, you will make a lot of money doing that, right? So I would say that I'm not very worried about like decentralized leverage trading kind of not solving these issues if they are solvable, and I don't see any reason they wouldn't be like solvable. There is no like law of physics that that says that you cannot have scalable leverage trading on chain. Like chain is just another like execution environment.
Yeah. I wasn't mentioning about leverage trading as a thing. I was mentioning the perp specifically, right? Because you mentioned perps, and that's the different model. If it gets to hybrid, right, then it solves some of the things. So okay, fair enough. I think I got my answer. Thank you.
Fisk, I'm curious, have you experimented with EigenLayer at all? What are your thoughts on restaking? And do you think it can pose systemic risk to Ethereum?
I haven't experimented with it. We aped some ETH into it to farm, of course. we do it a lot. But I haven't spent that much time thinking about restaking so far, because I feel that all the thinking that you do before it's live, before it actually exists, it's just like, I mean, it's not complete waste of time, but it's sort of, everybody has a theory about everything until, the reality hits, and then usually your theory changes. So I'm just waiting for it to actually launch, to projects to start use it like on scale, and then we will see, I think, very fast like what the risks are. But like just intuitively thinking about it, I think it will increase tail risks. By how much, I don't know, but I would say that it makes the system a bit more fragile. On the other hand, in crypto, if something can be done and it is profitable, it will be done sooner or later. So there is no point in kind of fighting it. It's the same as Lido FUD, where people are like crying that Lido will control 33% of staked ETH and it will have asymmetric power over the network. I mean, if it's the most profitable thing when it comes to liquid staking, to stake with Lido or to be a Lido validator, then like it will obviously happen. And if Ethereum was not designed to reconcile with this risk, then Ethereum has a design flaw, and it's not Lido's problem or fault, it's fault of the underlying Ethereum network. And I think it's the same with EigenLayer. Even though I think the risk will be higher with EigenLayer, the tail risk of rehypothecation will be higher and potential like cascade. But I would just say that it just exposes some maybe flaws or some weak parts of the whole, maybe Ethereum, maybe the whole blockchain space. And even if it fails like miserably and like everything falls down like house of cards, I think it will be like still very interesting to see, and we will be able to learn from it. So in like very long time horizon, I'm not worried about it. In the midterm, I think the risks will be interesting to observe, and it will be, I think it will be entertaining to monitor like how many protocols are restaking, what is the size of the leverage in the system. I guess one advantage that open blockchain systems or like these financial systems on chain have over like TradFi is that they are, visible in real time, observable in real time. Like some people are comparing EigenLayer restaking to mortgage crisis in 2008, where they were like repackaging these low quality mortgages and stuff, which I think it's very different sort of thing. But one sort of problem that TradFi had was that it's very opaque. That by the time you figure out what's wrong, it's already everywhere, and like there is no way to unwind it, and then like it's already too late, right? It starts falling, and if you are smart enough, you figure it out and you at least short, but that's all you can do. But here we will be watching it in real time. We can see all the flows on chain in real time, so we will be able to kind of gauge the risk much sooner than we would, even with stuff like Luna, which was like obviously was like a huge failure when it comes to not dealing well with systemic risks. Like, you could see it on chain. You could see when it started happening. You could kind of like you could be out sooner than it happened if you really paid attention. You cannot really do it in an opaque system. So at least here, I think the big improvement that like can never be taken away from crypto is this sort of real-time public access to information, to financial flows.
You've also been quite vocal about the privacy sector. Most recently, you tweeted out expressing that privacy probably the most non-consensus out there. Can you elaborate what you meant by that?
Yeah, I just think that like people really forgot about privacy, and we kind of got used to the fact that everything is public, not just like in crypto and within like the crypto space and with our addresses being monitored and stuff. Like, some people don't even care. They just put their ENS out there, and like you can actually unparse everything they do. And I would say this will change with let's say even with institutions, but I would say even with stuff like MEV and intents, you partially need privacy to be profitable, because you cannot, if you are especially a big player, you cannot really signal to the world, to everyone out there who is watching, what are you going to buy and in which size, because then like, of course, it's very easy to front run you, and markets are front running machines, right? So I would say that profit maximizing entities that will be entering crypto will care about privacy, not for ideological reasons, but for profit maximizing reasons. How that will look, I don't know. We funded a couple of privacy projects, not too many, because there are not that many out there, to be honest. One of the interesting ones is SilentDAO. But I would just say that, yeah, privacy is this thing where like all the crypto OGs kind of get it because of ideological reasons. There is like Monero. I mean, Zcash is, last time I checked, it was still kind of not very private because nobody uses the private features. But I would say this is like kind of, this is not very, very interesting way to do it, to just like create the currency that's like private and that's it's all like sort of differentiation. I think we will just need some sort of a layer, either a separate chain or some meta chain or some like middleware that you will be able to use to conceal your intent for like transacting, for buying something. I think one interesting project in the direction or thing in the direction could be Suave by Flashbots. They understand very well that you need privacy to kind of not be exploited on chain. How they implement it exactly, I don't know, but I think that they are building in this direction. And I think it's extremely underrated just because, yeah, it doesn't sound cool today, and there are not many projects building it. And that's interesting to me. Because it's obvious. It's obvious that we will need it for profit maximizing entities, we will need it to maximize profit.
We talked about Solana in quite in depth, so I wanted to hear your thoughts on Ethereum. What do you think will happen to Ethereum in 2024, seeing that we're seeing a lot more interest in ecosystems, obviously, that have more cheaper transactions in a sort of developed layer one scene? Where do you see Ethereum fit going forward?
Like Ethereum, the blockchain, I think will get used less and less by retail. It's like just simple trend extrapolation. Like people cannot afford the gas most of the time. I think it will still be the settlement layer for many layer twos, and the activity for DeFi will move to different like L2s. I would say, like I don't know what is the TVL of Ethereum right now, but I think that it's still higher, much higher than L2s, and I think this will be shifting. I'm not sure if it will be as fast as to say that like L2s will flip ETH this year or Ethereum TVL this year, but it's definitely a trend that we will see unraveling. ETH, the asset, I'm not too worried about. Is like big enough and liquid enough to attract and interesting enough to attract institutions after Bitcoin. And like ETF narrative, I think it's very well placed, even though it's being front run right now. Yeah, I think the one interesting sort of direction of it being DA layer, that's something that everybody talks about now in the ETH ecosystem, and I'm not sure how much of it is justified. When it comes to DA, like you have Celestia, which is much cheaper, but then like how much additional security do you need, and how much are you willing to pay for it, and does Ethereum provide this additional security? I'm not sure like how many projects are asking this question when they look at all these options for like DA. So I'm not sure about that part, but yeah, I think that Ethereum ecosystem is definitely here to stay. I don't have strong confidence it will outperform massively, but it's like a decent like beta to all crypto markets. So that's one thing. I kind of feel that many of the layer 2 tokens right now are pretty hyped, especially given the FDV and some unlocks. But when you look at the OTC markets, you may gauge whether these unlocks will be meaningful or not. And there are obviously at least two huge tokens being dropped probably this year: Starknet and ZK Sync. Yeah, as you may have noticed, I'm quite bullish on ZK in long term in general. I'm not sure what it will do like in 2024, but I would say it will be interesting and it will enable some new use cases. And the last thing about Ethereum L2s is this like observation I have about especially Optimism and Arbitrum becoming their own sort of hubs for like L3s. I think Optimism calls itself Superchain right now for like all the OP stack layer 2s and maybe some layer 3s, and then Arbitrum has hyperchains, right? No. ZK Sync has hyperchains, Arbitrum has something else, but they all kind of try to become their own hubs. So they don't seem to be satisfied, for being just a normal like layer 2 with their DeFi ecosystem. They actually want to foster their own like side chains or layer 3s, which is very interesting that we see these fractals kind of evolving. I think it's a bit complicated for most users and even developers to grok, and I think it will get worse before it gets better. We will see more and more complicated infra pieces kind of attaching themselves. We see all these hybrid solutions that use Ethereum for settlement and then Celestia for DA, for example, Manta, right? It's kind of interesting how it all connects, like with all the other pieces in different ways. There are I think 900 different permutations. If you want to build your own layer 2 or blockchain or something, you can choose from different DA providers, different settlement layers, different bridges, yada, yada. So you have so many permutations. And this is a clear sign of the market, how do you call it? Market sort of product explosion. And we will see consolidation quite soon. I'm not sure if 2024 or 25 or 26, but we will see most of these projects kind of either die out or becoming very niche and irrelevant, and then a couple of huge winners that will slowly take over the market share just because of network effects and then just being better at something than the rest, at something meaningful. So yeah, I think we are still in a proliferation phase for 2024 at least. So we will see many more airdrops, L2s, L3s, whatever being built everywhere, depending on which ecosystem gives out grants, which ecosystem has differentiated tech. And then sometimes in 2000, maybe late 24, maybe 25, we will see the bubble kind of pop a bit, and then like it will be winner take most market. And Ethereum just like I think sits very comfortably underneath. It won't be the most exciting asset unless institutions start to beat the ETF very hard. But it just has this Lindy effect. Even though it feels a bit mid curve right now, like it's not the best DA or settlement layer, it's not the best like execution layer, it's not the simplest, it's none of these things. It's just like sort of very well understood and adopted at this point to have some inertia. But yeah, I would say that overall EVM market share will decrease a bit, not because like people will leave EVM, but just because there will be so many non-EVM options that will also get traction, that like the market will expand so much that the percentage share of EVM will just like decrease, but like the TVL and activity on EVM chains won't decrease.
Are you a participant in the Cosmos ecosystem or Avalanche as well? And do you have any thoughts in regards to those two?
Yeah, Avalanche, I don't have extremely strong opinion. I used it. I got very surprised even it was like a month or something ago, where the fees like spiked up very fast on Avalanche just because there was some short-term meme coin season. Of course, Avalanche is supposed to scale via subnets, but it was still surprising to see fees this high. Yeah, I think it's just another take on modular thesis. I think Avalanche is in this sense a bit similar to Polkadot actually, with like Polkadot has a relay chain and then like parachains, so subnets. I mean, many of these things are just like different types of like Polkadot architecture. With Cosmos ecosystem, I think it's like a wild card. What I really like about it is that it's basically just like pieces of tech infra that are kind of unaligned in a sense that you can actually come there and build stuff without like being allied with like any sort of like big community or tribe or entity. So I would say like in this way, Cosmos is a bit of an anti-tribe. They are not so tribal as Solana or Ethereum are, for example. And you have many projects like DYDX or even Celestia that just like start building on within Cosmos ecosystem, but at the same time, they are competing for some things. Like Atom is like it tries to be the biggest hub, but it's being slowly outcompeted in different verticals. And Cosmos people don't really seem to care about that. Like they are not like, oh, you should drive more value to Atom. Why are you not using Atom for this and that? They are just like happy that someone uses IBC, and many projects are just like building on it because it's very simple to use and bootstrap validator set. So I definitely think that within Cosmos ecosystem, there will be something that will be extremely successful, either one a specific chain or some ecosystem of multiple chains or some hub or something. But it just kind of is not very clear like what it will be, which makes it more exciting. Because when you wanna sort of passively invest in like Solana ecosystem and you don't wanna bother with it, you just buy SOL and you hold it, and then you are like, you have exposure, so to speak, and you don't have to care about like figuring out which DeFi project will be the winner. You still have some exposure. In ETH, in Ethereum, it's obviously ETH. You just buy ETH, even though it probably won't be the fastest horse because it's just so big. It gives you decent exposure to anything that happens on Ethereum or layer 2s on top of Ethereum. But if you buy Atom, like Atom doesn't really have to necessarily like benefit from something else being successful on Cosmos ecosystem. So you really need to kind of dig deeper and form your thesis about which one of these Cosmos zones or hubs that are being formed will be the dominant ones. Like we see now, Celestia has like, I think, higher FTV than Atom even. Or you can just like simply create an index of all the interesting Cosmos chains and just like have some index bet. Maybe that could be interesting product within Cosmos ecosystem. But yeah, I kind of like this dynamic that it kind of makes it hard for lazy investors that just want to buy one asset and be done with it. And I really like that. It makes it more interesting and more diverse.
So to wrap things up, I want to ask your predictions and expectations for 2024. Where do you see the bull market going? I know you're not a fan of putting any number to it, but if you were to share your thoughts around the bull market, where do you see things going?
I don't have any like proper price targets. I feel like every cycle, when it comes to majors at least, every cycle is a little bit it pumps a bit less because just there is like already it's too big, right? So I wouldn't expect like extreme bubbles, especially given the fact that macroeconomic situations is a bit different than it used to be. And I also think that many people already expect 4-year cycle to continue being a thing. So that gives me an idea that it probably will play out a bit differently than like last 4-year cycles. I'm not sure if it will be shorter, longer, if it will be different, maybe not like a top heavy bubble than burst, but maybe it will be like slower, I don't know, 6-7 year long bull market. There are so many like options, and I try to think probabilistically, but I definitely think that we still need to see crypto total market cap in general at least double or triple or quadruple for this asset class to really prove itself. So yeah, I'm in general very bullish, and like if you are this bullish on an asset class, let's say you say, I don't know, like this bull market, maybe I think it will take 2 or 3 years, and I expect the total market cap of crypto to go up 3x. Like it's already like such a bullish prediction when you compare this to anything else in any other investment segment in finance, or like it's like unbelievably bullish when you say I have high confidence that this will make 200% in 2 years, right? That's crazy. Like there is no other sort of vertical outside of crypto, like investment vertical, where you can have such a high conviction and doesn't sound completely crazy. Apart from some like maybe now like short-term GPU demand and stuff like that. So if you say like, oh, you are not bullish enough because your target is not 10x but only 3x, like between 3x and 10x, it already doesn't really make that much difference. Like if you have such a high conviction that it's very profitable to just be extremely like allocated, right? And when it comes to like, yeah, I think Bitcoin just like keeps being market beta together with ETH. I would expect pension funds and all these institutions buying ETF to be a bit slower than maybe market predicts. I think they will not just like start aping a lot of money right away. They will just like be very slow with due diligence and everything, because like the people that are making decisions in these funds, they don't want to lose their jobs. They are very defensive, and you cannot get fired by not investing in something, but you can get fired by investing in something that turns out to be bullshit. So they will be much more careful than maybe people expect. That being said, the flows, the TradFi flows, boomer flows are real, and they will have an impact, and they will rise all boats. Apart from that, I really think that something like prediction markets or some SocialFi app with some like degen financialized speculative element will become interesting and big and talked about in 2024, and it will sort of spin this new new vertical. It will put it on the map. Right now we have Friend.Tech and some early like stuff that doesn't really work that well, but I think we will see it happening. What else? Yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't have like very strong opinion on like many verticals. I think they can take, many of these things can take adoption wise much longer than people expect, and speculative wise they can pump much higher than people expect even without any adoption. So it's very hard to make predictions about it. But yeah, I'm definitely bullish on next year, but I'm not convinced we will see 4-year cycle as we are used to from 2017 and 2021.
Every word you say makes BTC price go by $1 up. I'm not joking. While we have been recording this, it went from 46K to 48.7. And I'm just looking at the screen and shit posting at the same time. Like, as you can see in my eyes. And literally, like, just keep talking. I think if you keep talking in about an hour, we're going to hit 60K. Like, not joking. It's vertical. It's actually vertical. Like, it's literally, I'm like looking at the screen. Like, you put 1 second, put 1 month, it's just vertical. Like, green, huge dildo right there.
Do you have some Bitcoin, Ivan?
I do. And I have ETH as well. I didn't load up enough. Let's say I am not unallocated and I am allocated, but the rule of crypto is to cry about being wrecked 24/7, right? That's just a rule. It's what I was taught when I joined, so I keep doing it. Sometimes I overdo that for fun so much I start believing in the fact that I'm wrecked, and then it gets depressing. So that's the thing not to do. But no, I wanted more dip. I was reading Capo, right? That's the financial analyst of the century. I was like, this shit is definitely going lower. 12K is coming, boys. And then I kept a big back not buying. I mean, you can never be fully allocated, I feel like. You can never be perfectly allocated. Because you start a bit too high, right? Then it drops, you buy more. Then you keep away a bit to buy the next dip, and then you can never get fully in. Some people get in, I didn't get fully in, so. See? You hear how hard I'm coping? It took me like 3 minutes right now to just explain that. That's the level of cope. That should be telling.
Yeah, if I was analyzing your personality based on your tweets, I would be concerned about my Gearbox investment, but I know it's in good hands, but the LARP is strong with you.
Thank you. It's not in my hands anyway, so that's the best part, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you know it.
I guess so.
What you said is so true. You miss a move, you feel like shit. You lose money, you feel like shit. You make money, but didn't bet enough, you feel like shit. Made a lot, but missed life-changing, you feel like shit.
Whatever you do, you're gonna get wrecked.
My final question to you, Fisk, is do you have any final words?
Everyone who tries to like kind of make money in crypto will, even if you are glued 24/7, you will miss much more than you will catch when it comes to like winners. And you should be fine with that. You should be fine with missing a lot of winners, and you should be fine with other people, even dumber people than you, making money on them, and you should be happy for them, and then you will enjoy the ride much more. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Those are actually wise words, to be honest. Thank you. That helped me a bit.
Thank you for helping us cope, Fisk. Well, this was a fantastic interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys. Good luck for the next bull market. Bye.